that is starting it.
You're all ready to get started?
Yep, we're good.
Well, for the life of me, I don't understand why you're doing this interview. I have not accomplished that much in my lifetime, nothing great, except I have 3 daughters that all of you are a part of. I was born in Burlington, Iowa, to Flossie and Marion Dunsworth, October 3rd, 1931. I lived in Burlington until I was 9 or 10 years old. My father had a bakery, and he went broke during the Depression. But before that, before he had the bakery, my mother made baked goods and carried it in a basket and carried it house to house and sold it that way. That was how we had enough food to live on. We lost our house and lost the bakery, and we moved in with my aunt that had 4 boys in a 2-bedroom house. 5 of us kids and my parents, and my aunt had 4 boys, and we set up cots in the living room, and my dad went out looking for work, put a trailer on the back of the car, and we were out in the campgrounds, and it cost $1 a night to stay in the campgrounds, but we didn't have $1. So each night they'd run us out, and we got as far as Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And my dad finally gave up, and we was going back to Fort Madison to my aunt's house, but then the tire came off of the rim, so we just rode it on the rim and got back to Fort Madison. My dad worked for WPA and made Riverview Park in Fort Madison. It was the park along the Mississippi River. My dad got a donut kettle and started making donuts in the back of my aunt's house. They had kind of like a spare room, and they made donuts, and the kid across the street wanted to come over and help glaze the donuts. And what did he do? He put glaze in his pockets. So from there, then we had a street fair in Fort Madison, and the Hamburger Inn ran out of buns. By this time, my father had started doing other things besides the donuts, and he made some buns which were called flats rather than the round buns, and he started his bakery that in Fort Madison that way, and they liked what they saw, so he moved then to another building where we lived on one side and had the bakery on the other side. And then he started making Danish rolls and pies and cakes and everything for the restaurants, and they all really liked the quality and everything. So then he got big enough that we moved uptown, and then lo and behold, in the end, he had a fire in the donut kettle and lost everything in the fire. I worked in the bakery and got in trouble an awful lot because we had to work so many hours and stuff that by 11 or 12 o'clock at night I was getting slap happy, and I would pester the bakers, and I'd get a spanking every Friday night because I was being so ornery. My mother always told me that I was ornery because when she went to the hospital to have me, I didn't want to be born. So then she went back home and came back. I came out a week later, and she said from that day on I was about the orneriest kid there ever was. Well, I was born in 1931, so figure it out.
Okay.
Went to school at Course School in Burlington, and until we moved to Fort Madison. Then I went to Richardson School. When I was in Richardson School, I guess I was still pretty ornery. They thought, because if you got an A on your spelling test, you got the privilege of going outside on the playground and pick up papers that people had the kids thrown on the playground. And if your name was on it, then you had to write, "I will not throw paper on the playground," like 100 times. If you second time, you probably had to write it 1,000 times. Anyway, I couldn't find any paper on the playground. I thought, this is unproductive. So right inside the door, there was a wastebasket where everybody threw their papers before they went outside, so I just took some out of there. Turned to me, and I got in big trouble. Olayed in and cracked me on the rear end. Grammar school. That was during the first part of the war, and we always bought defense stamps. And we had one man that was in the, his daughter was in our class, and he always bought all kinds of defense stamps because he was from Syria, I think. He was over here, he was the shoemaker next door to the bakery. He had a daughter here with him, and his other children and his wife weren't here yet. And when his wife tried to come here, they kept her on Ellis Island, and she had something wrong with her, so she didn't get to come in the country. But he was so happy to be in America that he bought all kinds of defense stamps, so our class always got the prize for the week or the month. Then I went to high school, graduated, probably just barely. You didn't have sports then?
No.
I worked.
Yeah.
Only with my mother. Well, I was supposed to be working and went to a ball game and was supposed to come home after the ball game and go to work. Well, I went to the dance. Then when I come home, I'd just go right upstairs, and because we lived above the bakery, and she made me come back down and work. And then finally she gave up, and after several times, then I would just pretend like I didn't hear her. And I don't know.
Did you eat together as a family often?
Oh yeah,
Every night?
yeah.
What was some of the meals that your mom would cook regularly?
Everything was fried, because that's what my dad liked. And he'd hold it up to the light to make sure that there wasn't any fat in it, or he wouldn't eat it. Well, Pearl Harbor, everybody. That was 1941, December 7th. That affected everybody, and it affected the bakery because things were rationed and sugar was rationed, and most people couldn't get bananas, but since my dad went to the grocery stores and he would get bananas, and gas was rationed, and I had two brothers that was in the service. Ed, Bob, Dean, my sister Carol. I was the fourth in line of being born. I had a sister that got killed at 6 months age. By the first day that the hard road opened between Fort Madison and Burlington, and she was on my mother's shoulder, and a drunk guy came around the curve, and she got caught between the window and the top of the car. So she was the fourth, and I was the fifth, and I had a sister, and I was ornery too. Oh. Every Saturday night, the bakery was closed, and we lived upstairs above the bakery, and we had a back porch, and it had about 10 steps that went upstairs, that went up to the roof, and there was windows that was high, and I'd say, Carol, look, there's shadows, somebody's gonna come in here. So every Saturday night she'd have to go get in bed with my mom. And then other times we had to sleep together. I'd put my arm down along the side, and she says, Carol, somebody's pulling my arm, help me. Poor Carol. I don't know, I went fishing, raspberry picking in Selma, Iowa, with a lady friend and her son, where they opened a house just during raspberry season. So we went down there and picked raspberries, and we'd go fishing. And I asked, Yosanda was probably like 27 or 28, and had this little boy, and I asked her at that time if she ever got too old to ride a bicycle. And she was. So we get down there, and we'd sing crawdads and fish and pick berries, and we'd stay down there for a couple weeks. And that's where I saw my first boyfriend, Ralph Ritz. They had outside movies, and we'd go to the movie and sit, and then he'd write me letters, but they went to Yosanda instead of to my house, because my mother wouldn't approve. Got married in Las Vegas on July 3rd, 1951. After Barb was born, then I went to work at the ordnance plant. Worked there a short time, got laid off, and went to try to draw unemployment, and they wouldn't let you draw unemployment unless you looked for a job. So I went to Sylvania, looked for a job, and told her I didn't want to work. said, I got a baby at home, but I have to do this to get my unemployment. And lo and behold, they hired me anyway. I was there 14 and a half years. And then Sylvania closed, then I went to American Fork and Hoe, and we made hammocks, and that was just kind of a temporary thing. Then I went to work at Breck Shampoo, was number 2 in seniority, and was there the day they opened and there the day they closed. That was 10 years. Then I bounced around again for a while, and then I went to work at Exide Battery and was there about 14 years. So in all that time, from Breck to Exide, I never missed a day of work other than for my parents' funeral. Never got sick. If I did, it was, I went to work anyway or whatever.
Wow.
We don't talk about that. Barbara. The hardest thing was, I don't know. I didn't have any problems having them.
Yeah.
We used to go to Clear Lake once in a while because there was a salesman that came to the bakery that lived in Clear Lake, and we went up there a couple times. So this is a dumb interview.
No, it's not.
No, it's
I'm
awesome.
totally enjoying this.
I don't know, when Patty was pregnant with Nathan, we decided to go to a quilting class. And I completed my quilt, but she didn't ever get hers done. And I did that probably for maybe a year or so, and then put it away and didn't get it out until after I retired.
Do you remember the most amount of quilts you made in 1 year?
12 at least. That was when I gave them all to kids for Christmas. No, my oldest brother's the only one that did.
Ed?
Ed. After my folks went broke after the fire, then Ed took some of my dad's equipment and went a couple blocks up the street to it was just a retail shop. And Ed ran that, and my mother helped him. She worked until she was 80-some, getting the orders. And
When you were young and growing up, did you have an idea of what you wanted to be when you grew up?
no, we
No.
just worked.
You just worked. You just thought you'd keep working.
Got 3. There's 21, I think, in the family, or 22, and Barb's got 6 children. Kim's got 2 boys, and Patty's got 2 boys and 2 girls. Barb's got 3 of each, I think. By mistake. I don't know. Well, I weighed 125 with Barb before I got pregnant, and weighed
Mm.
And then 8 years later, Kim came along. Had one after that that didn't make it. Was born at 5.5 months
Hmm.
and lived 18 hours. And then Patty. In 2005.
Did you know that there might be a problem and you went to the doctor, or did they just find it?
I had cataracts removed, and then that's when they found it. Ocular melanoma, and because of the stress to the eye, it went into glaucoma, and then also had macular degeneration. And now it's metastasized to the liver, which is not good. So now I can see about 5% out of one eye.
Hmm.
So that's the end. Well, when I went to St. John's.
What are some of the things that you remember about that trip that you're happy to remember?
Oh, seeing the donkeys and chickens running around, all the beautiful flowers and the palm trees and the swimming pool and the boat ride and trolley car. Everything was. Because when I was there, I was pushed in a wheelchair at all times, so I didn't have to put up much effort.
Even in the sand, huh?
Even in the sand. They tried to throw me in the ocean once, backwards. Couldn't move my feet. Yes, you can. No, I can't. I could not pick up my foot because it was going backwards. I don't know, probably financial part, you know, being able to be independent with your checkbooks and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of my daughters. They all are very, very different, but they're all, couldn't ask for any better kids. That's not in the video, is it?
We can edit it out.
Nah, your dad's pretty good. And he's good to your mom, and that's all that's important.
Mm-hmm. Did you bring your kids to church on Sundays?
Yep. Just instill values in them. Don't drink, don't smoke.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely the most annoying thing when you sit down to eat or something, everybody gets their cell phone out. That's rude. Very rude.
Mm-hmm.
Don't remember.
So the only rule was not to sass your mom?
That was probably a big one. Probably wasn't the easiest one to raise. Probably caused her more problems than all the rest of them put together. Nothing that I did, but they did. All three of them have a good life, and can't put one above the other.
Mm-hmm.
They all have different lives, but each one is just as important as the other one. No.
Mm.
Well, we had a cat when we lived down 1514 30th Street, and Alan Wright turpentined it and screamed, cat.
I don't think we should put that in the movie either. That's terrible.
We always lived places where we lived above the bakery. We lived right downtown. Barb was the easiest as a baby, as a small child, until she got to be in 6th grade. Then it was chaos from then on. She didn't really cause any problems. She just had to be 10 places at the same time. Because if she did, like if she took piano lessons and then started clarinet lessons, she wouldn't drop the piano lessons, and then when she took dancing, she wouldn't drop the piano lessons or the clarinet lessons, and then she'd go on to dancing, and it was that way all of her life. She never would drop what she had, so she had too many things to do at the same time. And Kim probably was the easiest. I don't know. Well, like I said, they were in trouble at the time, but to find out later what they did, they'd have been in trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't have any problems with my kids.
It's good.
Honesty and integrity. Be kind to your neighbor. Yeah, we played a lot of cards after I was married.
What kind of card games?
Garbage, pinochle, double pinochle. Probably paying bills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, stay away from pot, drugs. Work hard. Get an education. Always do your best. No. Just the kind you sat on when I went to my grandma's. No. Heavens no. Heavens no. A lady that'll be at the party, Darlene. Well, Darlene's house and played carom after school a lot of nights. And as we got older and out of high school, we used to go to Darlene and I'd go to Keosauqua, Iowa to the square dances. And lo and behold, Ralph Ritz was there one time.
Were you a good dancer?
No,
Well, how come you are now?
I'm not.
So dancing was okay in your family back then?
No. Well, square dancing's different. You don't touch bodies much. I probably didn't have to sneak. I probably just thought I did. I don't know. I just know how my mother was. The more you can keep from them, the better off you are.
Yeah.
Same as it is now. Suits, jackets, sweaters.
Did you have to wear skirts growing up?
Mm-hmm.
And when did you get your first pair of pants?
Probably in high school.
Is that why you don't wear dresses now?
Might be. Pants are just more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about your shoes or your legs or your... My dad had prostate and kidney cancer.
Mm-hmm.
2 brothers with lung cancer. My mother died with a massive stroke. 5 days from one another. No.
Is there anything that you'd like to say to your family or grandkids?
Not
or...
in a video.
Right. Is there anything that you would say to your parents if they were still here?
I don't know. Hello, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just obey your parents. Don't sass. My 3 daughters. And everything that they've accomplished and for all their children. That's about the only thing that is important in my life, has been important. All the other frivolous stuff doesn't mean anything. Carol Burnett.
Why?
I don't know. I just said I wanted to live long enough for him to convict Hillary, but I think she won't live long enough for that to happen. But it's not that I think they'd be better off without cell phones, it's just the the use of the way they use them, because I think cell phones are good. That, you know, you can keep track of your kids and that, but many people abuse them. And want you to keep looking at the pictures, and yeah, they have their place. Balloons.
Balloons?
Balloons.
Why?
Because I can't tolerate them. They,
Just helium or all kinds of balloons?
all kinds.
The popping or the.
Yeah, the popping. Don't know when it's going to happen. They drive me up a wall. Seeing my grandkids and see how their life is going and being around them and listening to all the little things that, like Lila yesterday, Patty asked her, she said, "Do you have to go to the bathroom before you leave?" She says, "I probably should." Just love them and keep them dear to your heart. Be kind to them. And she can tell them, "Don't do as I did, just do as I say."
Yep.
Sunday we always had a roast. Put it in the oven before we went to church, and then came home and had roast. And then Monday night we always had a hash cut up to meat. And we used to go out sometimes on Friday night for fish. But the rest of the time it was just pork chops or fish steak, or cheaper to eat then than it is now. Not really, just on Friday nights a lot of times we'd go get fish, but not like they do now. Fish. Well, we had catfish and carp, not all these fancy foods. Oh, Mac. We used to throw a lot of the stuff out the window after we made it. Maybe a dumb shot?
No way!
I don't understand the question.
Well, yeah, you did because you didn't answer it right. If somebody, one of your family members that's close to you, was trying to explain you to someone else, what do you think they would use to describe you? Like what kind of person you are,
Your attributes, your characteristic,
your strengths.
your weaknesses.
I don't know. They're all pretty weak. I don't
That's
know.
not true, Grandma.
I don't know. Now here you go again, and I gotta holler at you. That's the dumbest question you're ever asked.
Okay, we'll move on.
You didn't know this was going to be a 3-ring circus. You're going to ask Barb that question.
Yeah.
The the things she did that I didn't know till later that she did. A lot of things I knew that she didn't know I knew.
Like what?
Oh, I'm not telling you.
Oh, come on.
One thing Barb and her friends on a Friday night before the football game would, this one gal was a little bit heavy set and she'd put on a wig and they'd go to the next little town, go in and get beer and stuff. And then they'd have it for after the football game. Of course, then it was frozen and got intoxicated pretty fast. She was in high school, probably when she was junior and senior.
Did she get in trouble?
We didn't know it till later in life.
Do you think there's any particular life events that made you as strong as you are now?
Well, I'm not that strong in the first place.
Yes, you are.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not strong enough to hold back this pee any longer. Yeah, we had ice boxes. The Iceman would come around. We weren't in the dark ages, you know. We had refrigerators and ice boxes. I can remember a lot of people had the ice boxes, and Iceman would come around every couple days. And as little kids, we thought some of them was pretty cute. I don't know. I was probably too young, you know, to really observe an awful lot. I know when we lived in Burlington, when we had to get out of the house, a guy from the electric company, we had a sidewalk alongside the house. And he'd walk up and down that sidewalk because there was 5 of us kids. And he didn't want to turn the lights off until our parents got home. So he waited and did that. Only when we were camping during the camp, I stepped on a pop bottle.
Glass?
Yeah, injured my foot. Left a scar.
How did you guys take care of it back then?
Just wrapped it up. Didn't have any money for the campground, so you definitely didn't have any money for a doctor. Couple weeks. I think we had money to start with, you know, $5 or something. And I don't really know. To me, it was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, just camp out and cook on the fireplace or whatever. I don't know. None.
None.
That's a shame. I regret that.
Yeah.
I
Swell.
didn't get along with my sister because she was a crybaby and always got me in trouble with my mother.
And then you'd get a whooping.
Because I was ornery to her. One time my mother said, "I'm going to pick up one of you and knock the other one down." My mother was not a very loving person. I mean, I'm sure she had it in her heart, but she didn't show it. And you never knew what my dad was thinking because he never said a word. He was absolutely the quietest person I ever known. We lived with him when we was building our house.
Oh.
We, the little house we got rid of, and we lived with Mother and Daddy for like 3 or 4 months when we was building the house, and Kim was like 4 or so. But then they passed away in 1979. So Barb knew my mother very well. Kim did. Well, Patty used to take her bicycle over there and leave it because the swimming pool was right behind it, by their house. Tried to get Patty to do her studies. Or tried to get Patty to turn them in. Turn in her paper. No, you didn't have to encourage Barb to do anything. She did it all. She took it on. And Kim was quiet. Best thing that happened to Kim was when she went to work at Jack's retail store. Kind of took her out of her quietness and shyness. She was probably, like I said, probably the easiest one. I can remember one time she got a ice cream something from the Dilly Mae, and I asked her where she got the money. I can't remember what she told me, but I didn't believe what she said. So I sent her to bed. And she laid there and laid there and laid there, and come find out the neighbor lady had bought it for her. And did I feel bad? Probably the quilting. But then with the quilting, you were alone when you was doing it, and probably golf and bowling. Bowling I bowled from 1949 on up to practically 99. I was never good at either one of them, but enjoyed both of them. Didn't start golfing until we had a golf league when I worked at Breck, and it was more social, it wasn't for, because we'd go out there and golf, and then we'd go have dinner someplace after. And that was the fun part of it, just being together. And when I first worked at Breck, it was a brand new company that started, and I was second in seniority, and knew everybody in the office, and even the big shots that came from West Springfield, Massachusetts, and that were just all one big happy family, and we all got along and all had so much fun together. And if we accomplished later on, if we accomplished like 100,000 bottles of a certain kind of shampoo during a shift, they'd buy a keg of beer and take it over to the park that was close there, and everybody would, have a sip, and it was just a fantastic place to work. Then they closed. They closed because they were given a 10-year tax rebate, where they didn't have to pay taxes for 10 years. And I don't know what happened to the company, but they closed it down because it was Cadillac of the industry. And they said if you needed money, did you sell your Ford or your Cadillac? So they sold the Cadillac and closed us down. And that was a heartbreak. up being what they called a tub file clerk. And I had to keep inventory of everything that was out in the warehouse. And we had some products that we made were FDA guided, and if we made 100,000 bottles of Zinc-On, then they had to go be shipped out as in that lot number, so that, you know, if there was ever a recall or anything. And the guys in the warehouse and stuff were not too efficient, and they said they sent out two pallets of a certain thing, and it was a different code number. Then it was up to me to trace it from the time it started in production and where it went, where the mistake was, and it was a very interesting job. I loved it because I'm a detailed person and can dig into it. And then I had to know where everything in the warehouse was. If you wanted to make shampoo with blue caps, you had to know how many blue caps you had and exactly where it was. And I was like a monkey calling up in the warehouse trying to find something, because there again, the fork drivers could care less when they had to take something out of the middle of the row and it was tagged as a certain row in a certain position, and they'd move it someplace else without turning in a change of location. And if the anyway, the report said we had 500,000 and we needed 400,000, and I could only find 300,000. Then you have to go find the other 100,000. So the ordinance plan, I think, was $1.17 an hour. My wages at Exide, I don't know what it was. I don't know, six something or seven something. But it was based on piecework, so that you were guaranteed 2.5 times your rate. So if you could make up to $12, $15 an hour. I got awards, but never got a raise. When I worked at Sylvania, I got an award for. There they had a certain method, like when you made these little bitty tiny radio tubes, you had the filaments was as fine as a hair, and everybody had you had to weld this first, and then this, and then this, and then this, and you had a rate, I think, if I remember right. And I came up with a different method of doing a particular method. So I got an award for that. But back to Exide, that was absolutely the worst place I ever worked in my life, and I put it out for 14 years, and one day I just said, I've had it, and called him up and said, I'm done. It was in the era when you have the druggies and the people that don't care whether they work or not, and they'd get laid off and get fired because they didn't come to work, and the union would come through and get them back on, and then they'd do the same thing the next 6 months, and people just didn't care about things, and they were backbiting, and if you did a good job and came to work every day and all that stuff, then you was a kiss ass, and they didn't like you, and nobody liked me. Because I was a good employee. You know, I did what I was supposed to do when I was supposed to do it, and went to work every day, and they always used to tell me, go get a life, get a life. And I worked many, 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 many hours. Like many times I'd work 18 hours a day. They'd call me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd go in and go to work.
Why did you stay for so long if you didn't like it?
I needed the money.
Yeah.
There wasn't any place you could.
There's no other jobs that had similar pay, especially probably with your seniority.
Right. Yeah, it was acid, and I carried high lead. That was one reason that I quit, because the blood level and the lead was so high that, you know, it's damaging to your body, and I had to wear a respirator and all that stuff. And at that time, your regular job, and if you got taken out of the area, which I did because of high lead, you could retain your money from the previous job. You didn't have to be cut down because you was taken out. And they'd put you in, if somebody was absent in a lead-free area, they'd put you in there to do it. Well, then they put you in with people that were more experienced, and then they'd get mad at you because you didn't do it quite as fast or as the way they liked it. And I'd get bounced around, and, you know, different places, and I thought, this is not for me. That time in life, I didn't probably have too many friends. I don't know.
Did you prefer to be like social with people, or did you prefer to kind of be alone?
Preferred social, but was alone a lot. So that's the technology, I suppose. Not that it benefited me, but I'm sure it benefited, you know, 98% of the people. Drugs. Yeah, we never had any of that. Or there could have been, but go to church, live a good life, be productive. Well, what I believe and what I do are two different things. Oh, that God created heaven and earth, and you have to accept God as your personal Savior to go to heaven. And you're supposed to live that life. But
What do you think that it means to live that kind of a life?
well, I think you have to grow in the church and that stuff. And that to be a good Christian, and don't drink eggnog. I was raised so different than what most people were, as far as my mother couldn't stand a Catholic. She thought, if you ever dated a Catholic or was friends with a Catholic, that was a big sin. And things have gotten so different, that I never believed that, or, but you can't really get rid of all the stuff in your life that you were raised with. I mean, you can't get rid of all the things that was instilled in you when you were little. Well, I'm just would be happy that they all took the time and the to come, and I really appreciate the fact that they're here, and means a lot, for them to be here, and that I can enjoy them while I still feel good, halfway good. I suppose there's something I should be saying, but I don't know how to say it, so. You're expecting an awful lot out of an old lady.
I just don't want you this moment to pass by and you think about you wish you would have said what you're thinking about.
Well, if I'm dead, how would I know
Well,
what I should have said? Just tell them all I love them. And I'm very proud that they've all done well. I don't like this interview. Let's stop.
We can stop.
yeah, we're done. I just wanted to make sure that you got out everything that you wanted to say.
Like I said, there's probably a lot I should say, but I don't know how to say it, so.
Well, that's okay. I think, especially, knowing that you grew up with a dad that said a few words and a mom that, couldn't really show love, that's shaped you in different ways. And I think, like your daughters understand that, even though you might not say it a lot, they know how much you love them. And I think as just people, we are able to recognize in people that some people have the ability to do things and say things eloquently and, really speak what's on their heart. And others of us just kind of show it or don't really show it, but we know that they feel it. And that's just, we're all different. And it doesn't make one better or worse. It's just how we are. So don't feel bad about thinking that you should say something if you don't have the words or the way to express it. Because that's okay. All right, well, should we let you get to happy hour?
Pardon?
Should we let you get to happy hour?
You can go with me.
Okay. It's 2:05. Is it BYOB? Because you got a bottle. Do you want me to leave some of that eggnog here for you?
It doesn't matter. If you want,
I
you
will.
can. If you don't,
I just need to know how much you want. You want the whole bottle?